I want to go across to Aishwarya Bhati, who's joining us live on this broadcast. Aishwarya Bhati is representing the army men who filed this petition. And Aishwarya, of course, for our viewers, just a little background, you also represented Major Aditya's father as far as that petition was concerned. You know, what we're seeing now is unprecedented, also very, very unfortunate that we're seeing this, because somewhere you also get a sense that the perception is that there's a lack of confidence in our armed forces as well. But for our viewers, if you could give us a sense of really what the grounds are of this petition as well.
Situation in an extraordinary petition which became imperative to be filed so that individual officers like Major Aditya in the Shopian firing case, or individual soldiers who are operating in AFSPA areas, they are not made to come to the court to contest these criminal actions, for criminal prosecutions for actions which are bona fide and done by them in good faith. We have to bear in mind that we are not even for a moment trying to protect any criminality. The protection under the Armed Forces Special Powers Act is not a blanket protection. That provides that you can't institute a case against soldiers who are performing bona fide duties without the sanction of the central government. And now the sanction of the central government, whether it is granted or refused, is subject to judicial review, as has been held by the Constitution Bench and Naga People's Movement of the Supreme Court. So that being the position, if you dilute the protection of Armed Forces Special Powers Act for ordinary soldiers who are performing bona fide actions, then it gravely imperils the very sovereignty and integrity of the nation, which is paramount, even higher than all our constitutional principles and ethos.
And that is the basic question here, Aishwarya Bhati. When this petition was filed and it came to light here, Republic TV put it out last night at 10 p.m. that this was going to be filed today in the Supreme Court. The basic question that comes to mind is, what do we expect of our armed forces? That they protect us against the enemy, that they protect us in states like Jammu and Kashmir, in states like Manipur, and also expect them to have the same laws as that of civilians? Isn't it a given that the enemy doesn't follow these rules or laws? How do we expect our armed forces to have, these kind of restrictions in place and at the same time continue to protect us?
You're absolutely right. A lot of people don't perceive these protections properly. These protections do not give any special rights to soldiers. Please understand why these protections are there. If you take these protections, in effect, facilitate the military operations of soldiers in extraordinary situations of insurgency, proxy war, militancy. You can't compare those extraordinary situations with law and order situations. Now, please bear in mind that Indian Army is one of the most professional, apolitical organizations and very proud of its ethos. Army has no role to play whether AFSPA has to be applicable or not. Army has no role to play whether an area must be declared as disturbed or not. Once you have the civilian governments, either the state or the union has come to a conclusion that there is a situation where the civilian authorities, the police authorities, are not able to protect the law and order situation in a competent manner, then you call in army in the aid. Now, once you call in army, you have to give that protection to facilitate those operations. If you don't dilute that protection in any way, then you are actually facilitating the enemies, the proxy war enemies, the insurgents, and it's very hostile situation. One of the prayers that we also have is that, Supreme Court in another judgment of Matthew Jacob laid down extensive guidelines where FIRs cannot be lodged against doctors merely on complaints. The court made a distinction that doctors, when they are performing their professional bona fide duties, they are also carrying out activities that ordinary people cannot ascertain negligence or criminality of. So only after a medical board certifies that negligence amounts to criminality can an FIR be lodged. So military operations, insurgency, militancy, and proxy war cannot be compared with normal situations, law and order situations, or even encounters or extraordinary situations in peace areas. It's very, very different, and we don't want, normal soldiers, individual soldiers. These are operations carried out collectively. There's an entire chain of command. And one more thing I want to make it very clear: it's not like army wants to protect, any of these soldiers want to protect any criminal activity. Army itself has a very robust system, which, mind you, I strongly believe is even more dynamic and robust than the normal system of criminal justice, which is otherwise available under CRPC.
Yes.
The conviction rate is much higher. The trials, the court-martials happen very quickly. There are hardly any hostile witnesses. So it's not like the criminality is sought to be protected even by the army. But bona fide action cannot be painted with the same brush.
And that is, that is the basic premise. When we've read through this petition, Aishwarya Bhati, that's the sense we got. The basic premise of this petition is that you've got about over 300 soldiers coming together and saying, look, protect us, give us our due, give us our fundamental rights while we protect you from the enemy. That's all they're asking for if you really read through this entire petition.
No, I wouldn't agree with you. We have very categorically said that this petition is not about fundamental rights of soldiers. If the sovereignty and integrity of the nation is imperiled, then the fundamental rights of every citizen of the country are threatened, violated, and trampled upon. We have quoted specific provisions of the Constitution where sovereignty and integrity, right from the preamble to all the oaths that are prescribed in 3rd schedule of the Constitution for every constitutional authority, from members of the legislative assemblies, members of parliament, judges of high court, judges of Supreme Court. Every constitutional authority has to take an oath to protect the sovereignty and integrity of the nation. Now, if that sovereignty and integrity of the nation is imperiled, then how can fundamental rights or basic structure of the Constitution, or even our existence as a constitutional democratic republic, sustain itself? The democracy flourishes because the security and safety of the country is protected and stood vigil by the soldier on the frontiers. If you're going to take away his protection, then you're sending him a very, very wrong signal that he's not to do his bona fide duty. Then he need not lay down his life then military will also become like police. They will come only after the operations have gotten over. We have last 70 years have shown us that Indian Army commands the respect even amongst the best armies in the world, best professional armies in the world, for a reason. Let's not throw it away. Let's not dilute it completely.
Absolutely. And what have we really come to? That is the question that will be asked. What have we come to if our armed forces have to move a court to ensure that they're not harassed, to ensure that they get the requisite protection that they deserve? Aishwarya Bhati, thanks so much for joining us. And of course, we are going to track the story very, very closely. Republic TV getting you the details of that petition and also the basic position of these army officers, personnel who've moved to the top court here, getting you more reactions on the story as well.